what is up, you heathens and demons, you sinners and saints, you beautiful, blasphemous people? Welcome back to The Rage. I am the Raging Atheist, and tonight I'm talking with Sargent Slim Jim, maybe a person that Smokey hates just as much as he hates your boy, and hopefully Jim can hear me. Can you hear me, Jim? Let me see if I can unmute you. I can't unmute you, Jim, so you have to unmute yourself. All right, there you are. So, yes, this is a great night. And as you see, and let me point at it correctly, past Jim, slightly to Jim's, I guess it might be left. I don't know. You see the sexy Dr. Josh wearing that 100% reprobate t-shirt. The Rage swag is coming soon. I'm adjusting all the prices, and I'm getting that original shirt onto the new site. So hopefully you guys will buy and be as sexy as Dr. Josh. And it's all about promoting the channel. Tonight, I have a very special conversation coming up. The last conversation with Smokey Saint for a while. And it's on Will Kincaid's channel. I'll be putting that link in the side chat throughout this conversation. But I have Sargent Slim Jim here, and Sargent Slim Jim is a man that I have met in side chats. I think we've been in a couple streams now together, and he is a man that Smokey absolutely despises. And it's because, you know, Sargent Slim Jim, being a Catholic, being a Christian, holds Smokey to account, I believe. So what's up, Sargent Slim Jim? Tell us about your channel, which I've been super busy today. I don't have the link in the description, but I will get it into the description because you guys should check out his channel. But what's up, Sargent?
Hey, well, thanks for the promo. My channel is quite small, so I don't really do a lot to, I guess, spread the word that I do YouTube. So I guess every little bit helps. So I appreciate the exposure.
Well, I appreciate you coming on because, you know, you're a Catholic, and that's one of the branches of Christianity that I've always been meaning to really like research and study. I know a bit of the history, and I kind of utilize a bit of the history in some of my rhetorics, but it's one of the branches of Christianity that I probably know the least about. That being said, I've encountered you in several side chats, and then we've been in a couple streams together. But what I've noticed is that Smokey, I mean, I can even be in the side chat, and if you're in the side chat, Smokey isn't talking to me as much, but he's yelling at you. And I'm just wondering, like, how that started. Like, how did you come across Smokey Saint, and why did you kind of start calling them out?
To be honest, I don't think that I'd heard of Smokey prior to the first time I talked to him. I don't even remember whose room. Was it this one guy's room? Because the first time you saw me talk to him, I think was the first time I'd actually talked to Smokey Saint.
Oh, really? All right. So you just triggered him like immediately.
Well, and I don't even remember. I think it was Jesus is Lord was talking to you about not like running from him, because he says everybody runs from him, which, I mean, he's kind of right, but for the wrong reasons. Like, people avoid Jesus is Lord because he's dumb as hell, and not because they're scared of him.
Yeah, he's kind of a shit troll, and you never really know what he's gonna say. And
well, Jefferson Spatchcock and I kind of have this gag that the only consistent thing about Jill is that he's inconsistent.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
I know Jill was coming in there, and he was trying. I think he was trying to give you a hard time about not debating him for, you know, reels or whatever the stupid shtick he was on that particular night. And then Smokey came in and, like, right from the get-go, he just was laying in hard on that same line. Now, I don't know Smokey very well at all. I don't watch his channel. I don't watch his content. I've seen him a couple of times in Praise I Am That I Am's room, but anyone who takes Jesus is Lord's side in just about everything probably isn't that great a judge of character, and probably isn't assessing a situation very well. So, and plus he was just being a jackass. about it. So I was like, well, let's, this is kind of uncalled for. Let's see what we can do to put a stop to this. If you can hang on just a sec, one of my kids is standing in front of me like he has a question.
Oh yeah, no problem. I understand. And for the audience, Sargent Slim Jim is an active military. He was actually recently very, very close to me, maybe like 2 blocks away from where I live. That's another thing that kind of brought us together, was you reached out to me and it's like, hey, I think I might have been close to you. And then when you told me where you was at, I was like, shit, dude, you was like, maybe like I might, if you were firing weapons when you were here, I might have heard you firing those weapons.
You probably did. Yeah. It's actually kind of funny because I was the range safety officer for the day we were out at the range, and I had been screaming so much by the end of the day, I'd lost my voice just to be, not because I, was mad or anything, just to be heard over all the noise of everything. And so it's a good thing we didn't talk that night, because you probably wouldn't have been able to hear me.
Yeah. I like I said, like I hear them shooting their weapons, like they're 2 blocks away, literally, and so I hear them shooting their weapons at least twice a week. I'll take my daughter out sometimes and we'll just listen, sit on the porch and just listen. But so like you just immediately had this vibe about Smokey, and I think one of the things that I've liked about you and what I've seen in the side chats and what I've seen in streams so far is you have this like really no bullshit approach, right? Like so, like when I was debating Jill, I saw you would call out things that you disagreed with me in the side chat, but at the same time you would be kind of going at Smokey and what those fuckers were saying, and I think that's one of the things that I really have liked about you since I've met you. And I think it's probably what Smokey doesn't like. So, like, like he says that you have to earn nicknames, and I've seen him call you several nicknames. Tell me the story about Sergeant K-Bar, because I thought it was K-Bar because I'm a Stephen King fan.
Oh, God. Okay. So this was maybe a week or 2 before we went to annual training near where you are. And I have a pile of stuff sitting downstairs that I want to throw into my bag before I go. And my K-Bar, which is my 12-inch military fighting knife, was one of them. We were going to be spending some time out in the field. And when you're out in the field, a big knife is a pretty handy thing to have. So I wander on into Praise I Am That I Am's room, which is really funny, too, because my brother, Whiskey Sam, is also in there. And Praise sets up this kind of impromptu back and forth between me and Jill over the validity of the Catholic faith. So, one, Jesus is Lord is just dull to begin with. 2, he speaks so painfully slow. Yeah. Like, I bet paint dries faster than the guy finishes a sentence. So, I'm having a hard time like keeping my attention on what he's saying. So I'm kind of looking around at this pile of stuff and it's like, hey, here's my knife. Check, make sure it's, still sharp and well oiled and everything. I take it out and I'm looking at it. It's like, yeah, it's good to go. And then I kind of start poking holes, little divots in my desk with it because I am bored beyond belief. And eventually I turn on some music and the whole time my camera's on. So he sees this knife. I pick a little bit of dirt out from under my nails. Probably not the classiest of moves, but in my defense, I was really bored. And Jill thought, like, oh my God, they're threatening me. He comes up with it's what I think Dragnot Silvis has used this term before. It's called persecution porn. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
And so Jill, he unloaded the persecution porn harder than a San Fernando guy with a mustache unloading his box of DVDs on the street corner, right? He's just all, hard. He's just like, oh, I got Sarge on something finally, right? And so he plays up this whole unstable, sergeant guy in the military and the police force, doing all these things, look at him playing with this knife. What we got our kids around this guy. We're going to trust the safety of our young people with this guy's leadership kind of thing. And
wow.
then
I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of crazy because like Jill is this ultra right wing, like pro gung ho Trumpian, like let's like fucking conquer the world and bring right wing conservatism to the entire world type of douchebag. And yet, like, so because you're somewhat of a combatant interlocutor, and trust me, I know Jill very well, but because you're somewhat of a combatant interlocutor, he's going to dismiss all of those political philosophies that he holds dear, supposed to uphold the troops, and he's going to pretty much question whether or not you should be serving in our military.
Like I say, the only consistent thing about Jill is that he's inconsistent, right? So we're in a street, and now this is like fast forward to annual training, and it's been a long day. I kind of got to get my mind off of all the BS that comes from being in the Army. So I jump into a stream just to say, hey, what's up to a couple people, and Jesus is Lord is in the stream. And he says something, I forget what it was, but he says, oh, go sit on your K-bar, Sarge. And I say, oh, you can sit on my K-bar, Jill. And I think Smokey heard that exchange and kind of took that one up, but he's like the biggest way to, not to say that anything Jill says could insult me. He can't insult me or hurt my feelings because Jill Sargent Becker did a thorough job of doing that already. Like there is nothing you can do or say to me that can make me mad. Thanks, basic training.
Yeah. I wish I was like that sometimes.
So let's see where now I lost my train of thought. So yeah, Smokey kind of picked up on that whole thing and like with the K-bar deal, but the easiest way to kind of take the piss out of a joke is to just either accept it full on, like, oh, you can sit on my K-bar, and then just turn it up to 11, if you don't mind Final Tap reference. So it became like this Jill is morbidly fascinated with my K-bar, like to an almost homoerotic level. Like this is starting to get a little creepy. This is a little weird now. It is like maybe K-bar is a euphemism for something else. I don't know.
Well, and I'm sure that drove Jill crazy. Like I know Jill. He's been in several of my streams. Like we eventually like kicked him off of the streams because he literally would sit there, and if a woman asked him a question, he would not acknowledge her, speak to her. I mean, it was worse than like when G-Man was on the stream, and by the end of the time, like G-Man like had muted almost everybody on the stream, so nobody could hear G-Man. He couldn't hear them, and he would just talk. It was almost worse than that, except for it was just like straight disrespectful. Oh, you're a woman, I won't fucking speak to you. And now like everybody knows that reputation about Jill, but like it started here, like. So I know this guy well. So I know that really drives them crazy. And I know like a lot of us argue about that type of humor. Should we use it? Should we not? Smokey Saint right now is trying to paint me as some type of homophobe because I crack jokes sometimes to fuck with him. And I have my little smoky sexy screen and I'll kiss the screen and all that shit. No, I'm a homophobe. No, I'm not saying that homophobia is wrong. I'm saying you're a douchebag and I'm fucking with you. So, but like I can imagine like Jill just sitting in his chair, just like all crunched up, like, oh, I hate this fucking guy right now. Like I can understand it because like the first time we went into a room, you were like Sergeant K-bar, and I was like, I think I'm a Stephen King fan. I've read The Dark Tower like 17 times. So when I read it, I was seeing Ka, and I'm like, yeah, Ka's a bitch. If you haven't read The Dark Tower, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, I never read The Dark Tower. I got maybe 200 pages through The Stand. And I think that's about the most Stephen King I've ever read. I did read a short story he wrote once for Esquire.
Those can sometimes be his best
pretty
ones.
Good.
Yeah, his short stories are usually really good. His Richard Bachman short stories that he put it all into a book. It was like under a pen name. His story, The Rage, it didn't influence this channel at all. I'm just putting that out there because like I think it was banned from America after like the Columbine shooting because they thought it influenced what had happened there, and because it was just about a kid goes fucking crazy and starts shooting everybody, But you read it and you was there and it was fucked up. Like it was Stephen King. Some of the best Stephen King I've ever read in my life. And I think The Stand itself was banned at one point. Because of like the superflu and the connotations of conspiracy theories, and eventually they allowed it and they made this stupid ass movie about it. But that's beside the point. So like, how many times have you talked to Smokey, and why do you think Smokey dislikes you so much? I mean, like, you're a Christian now. I want to get to your Catholicism because I've dealt with Matt Powell as well, and I've dealt with like really fundamental extremists that pretty much paint you Catholics as demons and heretics and blah 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 blah. So I want to get to that point eventually. But like, why do you think Smokey just like he I would say if he doesn't hate you as much as he hates me, it's pretty close.
I try. It's psychologizing people is not something that I'm very good at, so I try not to do it that much. But I don't think. I think it's kind of like an us or them sort of thing. So when I pushed back against him with that first initial exchange, and you ended up reacting favorably towards it, I think that kind of sent the message to him, like, okay, this guy's probably the enemy, and it can be hard to change your mind about something like that.
Yeah, I didn't mean to fuck with you like that. Like, yeah, like he automatically assumes like anything that I say is like instant Smokey brain is registering some kind of like signal or conspiracy theory about me.
Yeah,
maybe he thought you was like, oh, Rage sent this guy, obviously.
yeah. Well, the thing is, like, it really doesn't bother me. Even like, let's say, worst case scenario, you would set me up for failure, even inadvertently, right? Like, most Christians, once they find out I'm Catholic, don't like me anyways. So eventually he was going to dislike me one way or another, just because that's how it usually goes. I have managed to retain one or two non-Catholic Christian friends, but they tend to be few and far between. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, and why do you think like Protestants, evangelicals, fundamentals hate Catholics so much? Is it because the Catholic Church itself has kind of tended more towards science, more towards, I don't know where you fall along, but I've read what I know about Catholicism in the modern age is they seem to tend to kind of say like the devil was more of a metaphor, like maybe demons were more of a metaphor as opposed to the past exorcism days, trying to get away from the exorcism days. But I know they have like one of the best observatories in the world, and they're looking at the stars and they're trying to figure out the universe. So like Catholicism has taken this kind of swing towards science, it appears to me, and don't worry, I'm not going to get into like the child shit because as CJ pointed out, and it's no longer in the chat, I didn't remove it, it's just he pointed it out way too early, like Catholicism has this problem with pedophilia, and I'm like, CJ, all Christianity, all demographics across the board have a problem with pedophilia, so you might want to stop while you're ahead. So I'm not even talking about that shit. Do they hate you because of your veering towards science, or is it more because like the Matt Powells of the world, the more fundamentals of the world view you as heretics? You don't worship the true Jesus, which is what I've been told about Catholics by these people.
I think it goes more towards the second route, that they view us as heretical. I'm not sure how much you know about Christian history, so stop me if you've heard this one before. But a Jew, a priest, and a rabbi. No.
I got a couple of those for smoking tonight.
So in the 1500s, there was a monk, his name was Martin Luther, who eventually came up with some fairly novel ideas about Christianity and St. Paul's epistles, and ended up, this was about the same time the printing press had been invented. So he published a bunch of pamphlets against some foundational Catholic teachings. And at the time, like, this is, I can't remember their name, but they made an HBO series about them, the Borgias. Like, this was like at the, right around the same era as the height of papal corruption.
I believe, so I believe that was the Pope that actually allowed orgies inside the Vatican. I could be mistaken. Yeah.
The church, the Catholic Church in the early Renaissance definitely had issues, right? It definitely had some problems, and there were some changes that needed to be made. Luther took it too far and tried to change some fundamental doctrine that had been held by all of Christianity since its inception, right? Since the first century. And excuse me, a little bit of indigestion. And then that kind of moved on. Luther ended up eventually forming his own church, the Lutheran Church. And then there was a couple other people who split off from that movement. You get your John Calvin in Switzerland. You have your Anabaptist movement. And then as time goes on, the Protestants kind of fragment into more and more different. You got your Methodists, your Presbyterians, and you name it, right? There's so many different flavors of Protestantism. It's worse than Baskin Robbins. But they all kind of go back to this whole, they tend to be non-sacramental, more or less, and they have kind of different views on how the process of salvation happens. Whereas Catholics, like, even the language sounds different. We pray to saints. We hold Mary, Jesus's mother, in very high esteem. We're very organized, very hierarchical, which, kind of going back to the pedophilia scandal thing, sometimes can backfire. So it kind of, at least on the surface, looks and feels very different. And your average American Protestant who kind of grew up with Pastor Jim in the small church where Pastor Jim works a full-time job and then just kind of comes and runs the church on the weekend kind of thing, that give me that old time religion, Bible thumping types, like Catholicism looks weird. So I think that's kind of why the Matt Powells and the Jesus is Lords and the Smokey Saints don't particularly like Catholicism. Some of them try to be a little more intellectual about it and look, for really technical reasons to prove it wrong. But yeah.
Yeah. And, could it also be a part of, because Matt Powell isn't a big Trump fan, but he's definitely conservative, right wing. Smokey Saint and Maddox and those guys, they're definitely Trump, Trumpians, Trumpers, gung ho. Jesus is Lord. Like I've never had anybody spam my side chat about, left wing commie socialist killing all the babies in my life as I've had with Jesus is Lord. Could it be, and I'm not even, I'm not asking where you fall politically. I'm not really interested in that. But a lot of Catholics do fall more to the left politically and tend to vote with the Democrats as opposed with evangelical Christianity that votes mainly conservative. And could that have something to do with the demonizing of Catholics in the country, do you think?
Maybe a little. It definitely doesn't make them more appealing to most conservative Christians who tend to be pretty right-wing. Catholics, they tend to have their strongest bastions in areas with high levels of European immigration, historically speaking. So you'll find them, like the Irish, for example. You know how at one time you couldn't sneeze in New York without hitting an Irish cop, right? Irish are like 100% Catholic, almost entirely. And then you've got the whole, now I can't even remember the name of it. The IRA and all those problems they had in the late 20th century. But for for the most part, you got a pretty reliable Latin Americans, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, all of them. They tend to be almost overwhelmingly Catholic, and those blocks tend to be involved in a lot of blue collar jobs, which are heavily unionized, which have always been kind of the Democrats' core political base. So Catholicism and at least in the American Democrat Party, seem to kind of go hand in hand a little bit. And that you're right, that definitely at least doesn't help the appeal.
Yeah, and I really don't get it because I've often talked about this because I grew up mainly Baptist down in North Carolina, but I had some more progressive, probably Christianity up here in Michigan. Although I think, at least here in the Trump area, and even before, the family had kind of swing toward the right, swing toward the more fundamentalist Christian views, and really kind of just don't like anybody questioning that kind of shit. But like in this, I've never really understood why Christians don't really fall more to the left politically, considering that usually the story of Jesus that gets promoted. Now you have atheists like me that will pick that shit apart, and we'll create several different narratives, and we'll look at certain passages and call out inconsistencies. But the Jesus character that was always promoted to me, or at least I always thought that I believed in, was one of love and compassion and love thy neighbor and, help the poor. And these are all more considered lefty issues. And it seems like the right-wing politicians have really utilized hot-button topics like abortion or gun rights to kind of hijack Christianity away from itself. And to like maybe aligning politically with how they're supposed to be aligning spiritually with their God.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting when you look at it, right? Because my family tends to be extremely right wing. I myself, I tend more towards the libertarian side of just about everything, which is ironic because I'm in the Army. But we won't talk about that.
Well, I definitely have a lot of libertarian leanings myself. I consider myself a far lefty, but I definitely have a lot of libertarian leanings that gets me in trouble with the lefties.
Yeah, I mean, you remember Lord of the Rings when the Treebeard?
Oh yeah,
walking,
yeah.
talking to you guys? Yeah. Remember when one of the hobbits says, "Well, which side are you on?" And he says, "I'm not on anyone's side because no one's on my side."
Yeah. Yep.
That's my politics in a nutshell right there.
Well, and I think that's I think that honestly, and I'm not trying to get us off on politics, but I think that that's like the problem that Joe Biden is really smacked in the face right now. And I don't care what national polls say. I don't care anything. I do not put it past the Democratic Party to fuck up anything. But like, I think he's really facing that right now. Like, just like the reality of the situation, and are you willing to fight for it? Are you willing to be like real about it? And I don't know. I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared. But yeah, like, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off and interrupt you. And I definitely don't want to take this down politics. I'm not. What I'm interested in you about, for one, is I think you're going to be an honest interlocutor moving forward. So anytime that I have like an open room or there's a conversation going and people can come in, I would love for you to come on and represent that Catholic point of view. Because I think that you're the type of person, like we could have heated discussions and deep disagreements and then come back tomorrow, start fresh, and be cool with each other and do it all over again.
Well, it's actually funny you say that because one of my better friends on this whole YouTube thing is Jefferson Spatchcock, who is an atheist and a dyed-in-the-wool socialist. So politically and theologically and philosophically, Jefferson and I agree on almost nothing. But we both respect each other's reasoning process and how we arrived at those points. So like you're saying, right, if you're willing to sit down and have a decent conversation without the stupid bants, without the stupid insults, without trying to make it about the person and making it about the ideas, like I can disagree with just about anybody, sit down and have a great conversation with you. Yeah. Right. Like I try to treat every YouTube conversation as the both of us sitting on my front porch on a nice day with a glass of scotch and a good cigar, and we're just marinating over an issue after a long day. Now, if we want to play stupid games, I have a lot of stupid prizes to hand out, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like the stress of these ongoing YouTube feuds is just it wears on you after a while, and it's like I would rather sit down and have a good conversation with a guy like you or a guy like Jefferson, or there's another YouTuber I follow, John Fisher 2.0. We just sit down and have a really good conversation, like turn something around, tear it apart, find what pieces, find all the pieces and then put it back together again. And maybe we can come up with something better at the end. Who knows? Yeah,
I totally agree with that. I do grow weary with like constant drama. And I like to interject it. I want to have, because, YouTube loves drama and I think that I have like a thicker skin than most. And I think I'm just because the course of the life that I've lived, it has kind of like primed me better to really get down and get dirty. But at the same time, I don't want it to be about just that. Like I really wanted to tackle ideas, and I want to expand what I'm learning every single day. And I think that that's kind of the balance that you kind of have to draw. Because if you get into it too much, on either side of it, whether it be Christian worldview, secular humanist worldview, whether you answer no to the God question or yes, you're going to grow very weary or very angry at the other side if you're just constantly battling. There has to be a level of respect and a way for people that disagree to just understand that they disagree. And I try to go in to every conversation like that, like, all right, we're going to start with this element of respect, and based on what you feed me is what I'm going to feed you. And if you go disrespectful like Smokey does, like just naturally, instinctually, then you're going to draw that out from other people. You know, they're going to give back to you what you're giving to them. With all the conversations I've had with Smokey Saint, I've come to the realization you can't actually have a real conversation with the guy unless you're willing to concede everything to him. Then he will disarm himself, because he's defeated you, and then he'll be an actual real human being. Until that moment, it's just not going to happen. It's going to be trash clown. Even if you're a Christian, if you just all these Christians he's hanging out with right now, if they cross him, they're going to be trash clowns too. It's not just delegated to atheists or Catholics. It's going to be anybody that really crosses him, because he's a fucking narcissist.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And I think I mentioned this the other day when I popped into your stream for like 5 minutes, is a lot of people on that particular side, like, they don't really have anything to say. And I think that's why the discussions get so heated, is because like it's the same thing over and over and over again. And it's tired, it's old, it's passé, to be frank. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where some of the animosity and the vitriol comes from, is just because it gets an impasse, right? We know we're not going anywhere, so let's just get angry at people. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just.
And the thing that like bothers me the most, right now this is aimed at Smokey, but it seems like that whole group does it, is like, let's target people that aren't targeting us at all. Like, right? Like, so like Smokey came at me, and I figured out last night that it could be over me making videos about David Woods. But like now Smokey's really starting to target people like Dr. Josh, Paulo Gia, you know, people that, and I truly think it is this, that like Smokey Saint wants so bad to be a scholar, a legitimate scholar, because that's kind of like what he tries to claim to be, that he can't stand actual scholars. and that's why he hates Dr. Josh. Like I've started editing a video about the way he's trying to go at Dr. Josh right now, and it's like I'm like, how can you not understand, Smokey, that you discredit yourself with this type of shit? Like if you want to be this thing that you're promoting, like you want to be this apologist that's combating fundamentalism, that's trying to bring like truth about the Bible to Christianity, which is all just like bullshit excuses, because like I tore the man a new soul throughout our interactions. Then why would you hate a man like Dr. Josh, who is actually trying to bring the truth about the Bible to the masses, and not doing it from any kind of bias, but they have to assume bias? I don't understand it. And the only thing it could be is that they're just jealous. They don't have that education. They don't have that intelligence. You don't have to have an education to be smart, Smokey, but Smokey thinks he does, and he's jealous of Dr. Josh, and he's jealous that he knows Paulo Gia will just tear apart his arguments if he ever went against him. And maybe that's why he kind of like lashed onto you and started calling you names too, is, oh, here's a guy that can actually combat the things that I'm talking about, so we've got to demonize this man.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, I've interacted with Paulo Gia maybe once or twice, but he doesn't seem like that bad of a dude to me. And from what I've seen from Dr. Josh, like, he doesn't seem that bad of a guy either. Now, Skylar has a way of making foolish people look extremely foolish. And like Skylar and I have gotten into it before, back in the old Google Hangouts day.
I miss the Google Hangouts days.
Yeah, they were much more interesting, I think.
Yeah.
But again, it all goes back to the whole, like, if we can just kind of dial back the rancor a little bit and not take things personally, I think we can have much more productive conversations, even if we disagree.
Mm. Oh yeah, and that's CJ's been in the chat tonight. It's one of the things I really like about CJ. I don't know if you've come across CJ yet. We disagree on a lot. He's deeply conservative. We could probably have a debate on just about any issue that we wanted to, because we'd be on either sides of that. But just something about him, for some reason, I really like, and he seems like an honest interlocutor, like you yourself. I'm sure that we could probably debate a lot of different things. And one of these things, like if you ever come into an open room, I want you to like really, or maybe we'll set up another show to where you can really challenge me on some of the things that you've heard me say that you disagree with, and we could have that conversation. But because it's really hard to find just people that really want to have open conversations. You find a few of them on YouTube still. Jay Pasick will have streams, and this one guy will have streams. Richard Madsen will have streams. I mean, some people still do it, but not a lot, and especially not on the Christian side. Like if you walk into some of these Christian rooms, as an atheist, you know that you're walking in the Viper's Den, and vice versa. Like, I reached out to CJ last night. I was like, man, I kind of felt like you didn't have a fair shake. It was like you against 9 other people. And that's the nature of the room. And that shows he's got balls. He can do it. But it seems like there could be like just 4 or 5 of Christians in these particular rooms, Smoky rooms, Maddox, Standing for Truth, Praise. And you're walking into a Viper's Den, and there's going to be no fairness, and you have to understand that before you even walk in. To where on the other side, some of these channels are just about conversation. We don't, you disagree with me, and let's get heated, and then let's come tomorrow and be cool and start all over again and get heated again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I don't remember if it was live or not, but Jefferson and I had a very heated discussion over U.S. monetary policy. And then after a while, it kind of wound down. Jay kind of ended up putting a bit of a stop to it, because we were both getting a little annoyed with each other. And then we ended up talking about music and TV shows. And at the end of the conversation, Jeff and I ended up exchanging email addresses, and now we send each other music and movie recommendations like a couple times a week now. So
yeah.
You're absolutely right. Like if we can have a good conversation, like, yeah, it can get heated, and then we can dial it back a bit.
Yeah, I mean, disagreement doesn't mean, oh, I hate you. Like, you're an awful person. Yes. You don't think like me. I mean, I think that we lose that a lot of times now. And it could be because politics has us just divisive. Religion has us as divisive. A lot of people are poor and we hate our fucking lives. A lot of people are rich and they love their lives. They can't understand why us poor people hate our lives so much. Like there's so much separating us that I think a lot of us grow up just so combative, and we've forgotten how to fucking talk. Like I can't tell you how many times like I get shut down because people, I don't want to talk about that. Why don't you ever talk about what everybody else wants to talk about? Let's talk about the fucking Lions. And I'm like, the Lions have lost for 50 fucking years. What's there to talk about? Let's talk about some important shit, but they don't ever want to have that conversation.
Every time somebody mentions the Lions, I get another wrinkle on my face and one of my hairs turns gray.
Yeah, I mean, people wonder why I'm bald. I'm a Lions fan. Fuck, I can't help it. I'm getting all this gray now because every year they're like, oh, they might be good, and then every year we just suck ass, Like, at least this year we have an excuse. We got coronavirus. Come on, people.
Yes. And it's funny, too, how, like, the roster is, like, changing on almost a daily basis. Like, I actually had to unsub from a couple of sports feeds just because, like, already the bad news about the football season was already starting to give me ulcers. Just like, I can't read this anymore.
Yeah, I can't even look at it. Like, I'll watch every game, But I have that second team, and for a long time, my second team always lost too. They would come like super close because you pick a team that might actually win a Super Bowl, and they come super close, like the Dallas Cowboys with Terrell Owens, the Philadelphia
Yeah.
Eagles with Terrell Owens, but now I have the Kansas City Chiefs. So last year, my second team was the first year that I won a Super Bowl. So as a Lions fan, I have won a Super Bowl, people.
I don't know if I can muster the wherewithal to have a second team as far as the NFL goes. Like, I can only be heartbroken so many times.
Yeah, people just can't truly understand the heartbreak of a Michigan sports fan. They just can't. We had hockey for a while, but we don't even have that anymore.
No, but to be fair, the Detroit prospect pool is looking really good, and so are the Tigers.
Yeah, both of those teams are starting to finally seem like we're coming around. Maybe we'll have some happiness again. Although I'm still very bitter over the Tigers and Verlander never winning a World Series when we had two chances to win a World Series. And I know, my audience is like, why are they talking sports? Well, because for one audience, because I'm really trying to be really, really loose. All right, we're an hour and 15 minutes away. I got to cook dinner I got to finish dinner real quick, and then we're an hour and 15 minutes away, and I got jokes. So I got to be super loose to tell my jokes.
Yeah. Well, plus you get a couple of Tigers, Red Wings, or Lions fans in the same room, and we will go on for hours. It's just...
Yeah, we love the sports that breaks our hearts. It's just that's fucking Michigan sports for you. All right, man. So we've got like 15 minutes left before I want to shut it down. I'm not quite ready to get to once again shilling your channel or shilling what's going on in an hour. So I just want to ask, what do you think about Gavin? So last night we had a conversation at some point during the really long open room that I had. And it's I want to go hard at the guy because it seems like he's just a troll. But then Jay is feeding me with maybe he really has a mental disability. So should Gavin just be ignored, or should we slap him for being a stapler boy? I want to ask your opinion.
The cardinal rule of the internet is never disclose your full name or address. Only slightly less well known is never put naked pictures of yourself on the internet because they will never come down.
Yeah.
Whether or not he has any culpability in this. Oh, no.
Maybe
can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but...
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, my headphone batteries just died, so...
Oh, that sucks.
But my volume level's still good?
Yeah, I still hear you pretty good.
Okay. So, yeah, as far as that goes, whether or not Gavin does have some kind of screw loose or something like that, the simple fact of the matter is, you just don't disclose personal information. If you do, it's kind of like leaving $50 bills in the center console of your car when you park it at Walmart or Meijer or Kroger or wherever. You're just asking to get your windows smashed.
Yeah.
The fact that you have, honestly, the whole Gavin situation is, as far as interacting with him now goes, I think he kind of paid for his mistake. Let's move on. The biggest issue I think with Gavin is that at least up until very recently, he continued to vandalize Praise's stream hard.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Praise. At least his rooms were places where pretty much anybody could come in and talk about anything, and they were running pretty much all night. So you had that going for it, right? It was kind of like the slightly less well-known Nadia's room, if you remember those.
Yeah.
And that was the big issue. If this information had gotten out about, if the whole Gavin incident had, if we had found that info out, and Gavin had not been ruining the room the way he was, I don't think anybody would have cared.
Well, yeah, and I think that really, like, he kind of hurts himself to have like serious conversations with the like. Tioga's saying in the chat that it's not trolling, and I kind of agree with that because it doesn't seem to be trolling. It seems to be like an impulse. Like, I'm OCD, very mildly, but it almost seems like this obsessive compulsion to just stomp out the dissenting voices. And yeah, you're right. And hopefully Pray's got a handle on what Gavin was doing. I haven't really seen any issues recently. But yeah, it seems like almost like Gavin couldn't help himself. Even when Praise was there trying to combat him from doing what he was doing, Gavin's like, fuck you, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. and I think that was you can make all the indiscretions you want in your personal life, and you can have a goofy accent or just not be very intelligent, but when you start screwing with the meta conversation, that's when you start really annoying everybody. And if you've got skeletons in your closet, like, be careful.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I try not to screw with people, right? Because, like, not that I have anything particularly egregious, but, like, I'm a human being who's been on the earth for more than a couple decades. I'm sure I've done something somewhere that somebody will probably dig up and laugh at if they really want to go after me. So, like, just be a decent dude.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I've always been like blatantly open about my past, shit that I've done, shit that I've lived through. I mean, to the point that like Brett Keene's made whole streams about like nobody cares, dude. But like to me, like if I'm open and honest, like I'm not gonna sit here and try to pretend to be somebody, and then 3 years somebody pulls up my felony records from 1990, whatever, and oh, what about these? I'm like, no, I'm gonna talk about that shit right from the get. Yeah, I went to prison. I was fucked up as a kid, So, and I unfortunately, I just don't think people have honesty, especially here on YouTube, which is when you find honesty, like you kind of latch onto it, no matter if you disagree or not. Like, no, honest dude, I can respect you.
Right. That's I think that's the thing. And yeah, like I think you make a good point too. If you've got things, get out ahead of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I've been very honest that I worked with the Democratic Party here in Michigan for a very long time, so I do understand PR relations. I think I have an instinct for it, but also like I just always wanted to portray myself as just deeply honest. Like, hey, I'm this flawed human being. I'm an atheist, right? And I make mistakes and I make good decisions just like Christians do. And I love it really honestly, like when I bring out like, hey, I went to prison, and they automatically assume, well, you did that as an atheist. Of course you went to prison. And then I have to point out, well, no, I was a Christian, and everybody else in prison believed in that same God as well. So, it kind of gives me, it's kind of, I use it against them. And so, it kind of works both ways for me.
Yeah. It's actually kind of funny you keep mentioning that you worked with the Democratic Party. You would not get along with my mother. She worked for Michigan Right for Life for years.
Oh yeah. Well, she might actually know me in real life. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, wow. That's too funny.
It's funny how our world just keeps getting smaller and smaller.
Well, I always love talking to Michiganders, man, because like we are a unique, stubborn sons of bitches. Were you born here?
Yeah. No, I was actually born in Hancock.
Oh, all right. Because I was born here, and then I was taken down to North Carolina, which kind of gave me like a double-edged, stubborn son of a bitch quality to myself.
Oh, shit, dude. I was stationed in North Carolina for like 4 years.
Yeah, I grew up there like my whole life, 4th grade up until about 22, I believe. And then I moved back here, and then I moved back down there and partied my ass off. And now I'm never going back again. It's not because of like the warrants. No, I kid.
Where else did you live?
Winston-Salem area. It was like we lived in the boondocks, but we were like 20 minutes outside of Winston-Salem. A little town called Davie County, North Carolina. A bunch of rich-ass white motherfuckers everywhere, and cows and tobacco.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was at
everywhere. Fort Bragg. Oh yeah, I've been up to Fort Bragg.
So that's still in the Piedmont, right? Winston-Salem?
Oh yeah, yep. Piedmont area, foothills. But you can literally see Pilot Mountain from my backyard still. I mean, it was in the distance, but you could see it.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I miss North Carolina. I would go back to North Carolina if I didn't think that everybody there would lynch me in Town Square or burn me alive, which might happen if I ever went back.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm not only a lefty snowflake, but I'm an atheist, and he's a demon.
I mean, if you hang out near like Charlotte or Raleigh or whatever, I'm sure you'd do okay.
Oh, yeah, but not in my hometown. No, they have literally told me, if you come back here, motherfucker.
Actually, my wife and I's favorite place to go was Wilmington. We used to hang out there.
I love Wilmington. Yeah, that's a good town, man. Yeah, that's a good town.
If anybody in the chat or watching this is from Wilmington, shout out. You all have a great place to live. I'm jealous.
Yeah, and there's little pockets in the mountains that nobody's ever heard of. Like, people think like Mayberry was like this fictional place on TV. No, we got a real Mayberry. It's a real place, and they're still kind of like that.
Yep.
So yeah, all right, man. I got 6 minutes, so I want to give you a chance to once again show your channel. I want to thank you for coming on. And again, dude, like if you ever see me like having an open room, please jump in and join the conversation. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on YouTube. Just look for Sargent Slim Jim. I think John Maynard posted the link to my channel in the live chat. If you just scroll up.
Oh, sweet.
I don't do a whole lot on the channel between 2 jobs and the 6 kids. I don't have a lot of free time to devote to running a YouTube channel, and so I only produce stuff when the whim strikes me. Occasionally I'll run a live stream, but beyond that, yeah, I mean, I definitely, if anybody wants to sub, I do churn out 2 to 3 videos a month. At least I try to at least keep myself to that kind of quantity. I can't say anything about the quality. My computer's crap.
We get better as we go, man. Trust. Like, you can't see my first videos. If you did, you look like, what the fuck is this? But even my first videos as the Raging Atheist, you go back, there's a progression.
My editing game is pretty good, but my issue runs is when I try to process and render everything. I get these weird artifacts and clipping that I haven't been able to account for yet. So I am my own worst critic, and I hate everything I've ever produced.
I am too. Like Smokey's picks on me about like the videos I made on Girl Defined and MMA Jenkins, and I'm like, dude, if you only knew the videos that never actually made it on YouTube,
right?
like if you could only see those videos, you'd have wet dreams.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, I do appreciate it, and go subscribe to his channel, support him, give him advice. That's what I always tell, like for new content creators. The best thing you can do is really listen to what the audience is telling you. That's what I did. They would tell me when my audio was fucked up. They'd be like, dude, your camera sucks. Get better lighting. Why do I see your fucking shadow all over the wall? Like shit like that. Little suggestions like that actually made me better at doing and having a better visual presentation as I go along, and I can only assume that moving forward it gets better and better for me, and it'll get better and better for you. I think you ultimately have a good message behind you, and you have a good attitude. I think you have a personality that people are going to automatically like. You have authority behind you. You actually know what you're talking about. I've seen some of the things you put in. Next time you come on, I definitely want to get into a conversation, not combating you on Catholicism, but maybe learning from you about what Catholicism is, if you'd be down for that.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, that would be sweet, I think. All right, guys, we are going to get out of here, so Sargent Slim Jim, I will play like closing music for about a minute, and then we'll be off air, and I'll be able to say a quick goodbye before I have to go finish dinner. But thank you guys for being here. This was an awesome conversation. I've been linking it in the chat, the link to Will Kincaid's channel. Maybe go ahead and click that link now, because trust me, I tried to find Will Kincaid. I put Will Kincaid in YouTube. All that came up was me. You're not going to find his channel. You're going to find me. So maybe click that link. Go ahead and get there and wait, because this is going to be a shit show of shit shows if you like shit shows. So until the next time, guys, I think I might take a day off tomorrow because I don't think I'm gonna get my video edit done. So maybe taking a day off tomorrow. But until the next time, we'll see you soon. As long as you love me. As long as you love me. I got my eyes on you, it's no doubt. Make up some food, you have to watch out. I got my eyes on you, it's no doubt. Make up some food, you have to watch out. Open spinning my head, it don't even matter what you think you said. Cause I got my eyes on you, watch out. Make a wrong move and you lose, no doubt.